Doc is the resident medic for the G.I. Joe team, and unlike a lot of the other commandos, so he wants to make sure that if the G.I. Joes come out with some scrapes, bumps, and bruises from a battle with Cobra, that he's there to help them feel better. Now, there are some really cool accessories that come with this figure, one of them, of course, being a stretcher that isn't prominently on the box, which is kind of a strange thing because that's a really cool feature. It's just, I would have no context for that if I were to look at the box. I just get a little hint of it right underneath the star. Now, a couple other things that I'm going to be looking for is the glasses on Doc. We've had some issues with those in the past. They can go really well, they can go not so well. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that he has this vest where you can port in different bits of kit, and I just kind of want to see how that all goes. So let's get him out of the box and see what Doc is all about. Or, what's up, Doc? So here's what I'm talking about with the stretcher. It's right here. It was hidden by the box. This is like the coolest piece of the accessory because it's completely brand new. Well, a lot of this actually looks kind of new, but the stretcher, that's like the standout accessory, at least in my book. Here is Doc out of his packaging, and this is a fantastic figure already. What I like, what jumps out immediately are the little touches, like the little fine points of detail that make this character stand out. Of course, he has the medic on the shoulder, and he also has, like doctor symbols on the other shoulder. There's little touches, like on his belt, there's this red webbing, and then there's this red buckle on his drop leg holster, which isn't really a holster. I guess it's just a pouch for things. You can't store anything in this one, but this one, this is where his taser goes, I'm assuming. But not only that, this is completely modular, so there's like a ton of ports all over his vest, and if I wanted to take them out, I could stick them in other areas. This allows you a lot of configuration when it comes to Doc, because he's supposed to hold like a lot of stuff. He's a medic. He needs to have a lot of, or I guess as much equipment in the field as possible, so if the Joes get banged up, bruised, damaged, or hurt, he's there to help them feel better. Other more subtle thing that I've noticed is that along the temple, you can see just the slightest little brush of gray. It gives Doc a very grizzled, a very distinguished look on the battlefield, which is something that I think the G.I. Joe Classified series does well. When we had the Tiger Force Outback, he had the gray hair. It was somebody who had seen battle, who has been in a number of skirmishes with Cobra. Doc kind of continues that tradition, but he also comes with some other accessories. The helmet in particular also showcases a lot of attention to detail, and I'll show you what I mean by that. This might look at first glance like a very standard military helmet, but if you look on the sides, he has medicine bottles that are attached by that, I'm assuming it was a bungee cord. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently the very first version of Doc had that on his helmet as well, but it wasn't really all that pronounced because there wasn't that extra touch of paint that would make it look like some medicine bottles. Now we have that, and it's very clear as day that this is a helmet for a medic like Doc. Now, when we are talking about Doc, we are also talking about these green glasses. This is a classic look for him, so I want to see if this is going to fit. And unfortunately, it looks like we have the same issue that we have with some of the other G.I. Joe figures that come with these very delicate accessories. They don't reach around the back of the earlobes, so I don't get a nice, secure connection. What I've seen from packaging and product shots is true. We should be able to put the helmet on top of Doc, and the glasses should be able to fit in, sidestepping that problem entirely. So let's try that out. Guessing we're going to try to put the helmet on first. And this is a very flexible piece. This is the area where we want flexible accessories because it was pretty easy to put on. It was a little snug fit, but again, we don't want the helmet flopping around. We want it to stay in place. It is really well sculpted to his face sculpt because where the chin guard is, it stops right at his chin. It doesn't go up or down. Like, I feel like this was very, very designed in tandem with Doc, so it is almost a glove-like fit. Now we're going to take his green glasses, and we are going to try to put those under the helmet. If I had the glasses on first and then I try to put the helmet on, I'm guessing that would just be a disaster. This is proving to be a little difficult here too. So this might have to be, oh no, okay, you can kind of wiggle it, and I feel like it's moving in a good way. I want to be careful though, because the glasses themselves are a very delicate piece. And there, that is the look that you want with Doc. Like I was hoping, because the glasses don't fit all the way behind the earlobes, this does sidestep the problem of it not appearing right, because what you're doing is you're clamping it down with the sides of the helmet that already fit rather snugly on his head. Now, of course, you're going to want to fuss and fiddle with this a little bit just to get it in the exact right position. But overall, this is a good look. This is something that this is much better than what I could have hoped for when it came to Doc, because honestly, it's really hit or miss with this stuff. I continually think about Buzzer and just the debacle that those glasses were. There are few smaller accessories when it comes to Doc. I think a lot of what went into Doc is also making the stretcher part of his accessory kit, but here we have this little black weapon here. I'm assuming this is a taser, since he is a medic and he took the Hippocratic Oath. I assume he did. He can do no harm. So he also comes with a flare if he needs to call in the Dragonfly helicopter for an evac. But you can't just hold on to a flare. This is the holster for the flare gun. And so that just fits right there, and this is something that we're going to be able to socket onto his military vest. When it comes to plugging these in, it seems like it does a good job of socketing in there. So there he is with his flare gun ready to pull and then fire away so that he could get a teammate out of the thick of battle. And then his taser does fit on his drop leg holster. It is a good fit there. And honestly, you wouldn't know by looking at it that it's a taser, so you could psych out Cobra a little bit. Now, the last thing, he has this pouch. We have the medic cross here, so I'm guessing there's probably some bandages or some kind of medical equipment. And then this other piece here looks like a flare. So if he needed to reload his flare gun, he could do that, I'm guessing, with this. The interesting thing about Doc is when I'm socketing these all on, he gets rather bulky. So for a medic, there's a lot of gear on him, which I'm assuming is part and parcel of the role, right? Like, you need to have the proper equipment so that you're able to treat your patients on the battlefield or get them out of the battlefield so that they're in a safe spot. But even though Doc does have a good range of motion in the upper part of the body, it's limited based on all of the equipment that he carries. You can, if you wanted to, remove all of these little bits and bobs and take them off so that he's not as bulky. Save the best accessory for last, or at least the one I'm most excited about. So this is his foldable stretcher. While it's not the same height as a G.I. Joe figure, it is a really cool piece of accessory. So you can see here, it just barely misses like full scale for a G.I. Joe figure, but it's close enough where I feel like you can kind of fake it. So if we just put Doc on here, it looks okay, right? Like, this isn't going to be the end-all, be-all version of a foldable stretcher, but in terms of like a pack-in with a character, it's really well done. And if I wanted to, I could remove one of his packs and pouches, and he could carry it on his back. What this does to his center of balance, center of gravity, is going to throw it off a little bit, and it's going to be a little more difficult to pose without a stand. But the fact that he can carry this with him and have like a pack in his hand that he's administering to a G.I. Joe just tells a story. It tells the story of a medic who is on the top of his game, part of the elite squadron that is G.I. Joe. I'm trying to see where there's some part reuse, and it seems like Doc takes a lot of cues from Shipwreck, and that's a character I haven't thought of in a minute because we got a really good edition of him a few years ago already, but the pants and I think the shirt are very Shipwreck-like. In fact, I'm going to go run over to my wall and see, because I know Shipwreck is kind of close to the front. I can kind of get an idea. Well, at least I thought Shipwreck was close. He really wasn't, but I did confirm that this is using a lot of parts from Shipwreck. Through the magic of accessories, through the magic of part reuse, something that G.I. Joe is so well known for, it does it in a way that makes this character feel brand new. Now, one of the things that I don't like about Doc is that when I do have this as his backpack, you have one extra pouch just somewhere. You have to make a choice so that he has to hold on to something or he has to store something off the character. So that's one thing. Like, it could have just added one extra little port underneath his arm. He's already bulky enough. We could have just gone with one more port and had everything just fit on Doc. But alas, we have to make a choice. He's either carrying the stretcher on his back or he's carrying one of these pouches in his hand. And if I could have changed anything about Doc, it would be the stretcher. Just make it a tiny bit. It only had to be maybe like a ½ inch longer, and it would have really sold the whole, this is a stretcher for G.I. Joes that have been wounded on the battlefield look. It's just a little small. Again, it's just like so close. It's so close. But it is noticeable when you put somebody on the stretcher. So what do I think overall about Doc from the G.I. Joe Classified series? I think this is a really great figure. He's kind of like Airborne to me in a lot of ways, where it's a character that feels very familiar, but they've upgraded and updated it in a way where it doesn't feel like a brand new character, but it feels like a continuation of the real American hero version of Doc. I also like how the G.I. Joe team has figured out that the glasses, even if they don't fit over the ears, that you can put a helmet on it and just approximate the look so that it will stick on the character's face, provided everything else fits snugly. We've had a lot of figures focused on battle and war, and Doc is the complete counter and opposite to that. And his loadout through the taser, the flare gun, the stretcher all reflect that. He is a character that sets himself apart by assisting the G.I. Joes and not contributing to the ongoing conflict between the Joes and Cobra. Doc does get a little bulky based on his overall vest and how you equip that, but if you don't mind storing a few extra things on the side, then Doc is a very nimble character. So it's one of those trade-offs. Do you want to load him up with all of his gear so that you don't have to worry about storage, or do you want him to be a little more agile, a little more nimble, something that you might expect a medic to be? There is a lot to like about Doc, and I think he's one of the top G.I. Joe classified figures this year so far. While he doesn't have the most flashy accessories, they're ones that tell the story of the character that's in front of us. So if you like action figures like G.I. Joe Classified, and who doesn't? They have just been making some amazing figures this year. You definitely need to follow along, hit that subscribe button, and get more videos in the future. Because if you like other 6-inch scale action figures, things like Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series, and like cool stuff like Jada Street Fighters, which I am going to review in the future, you're going to want to stick around for that. And if you just like toys that move and are action-filled, then you're going to like videos that I post about Nerf, other collectibles, pop culture things, and just fun toys. That's all I know about Doc. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.